everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Buckeye Blitz podcast. I'm your host, Chad Stryker. Thanks for taking some time to listen today. It's Q&A Tuesday, and I have a deep mailbag to get to, so I'll be getting right to that. Just a reminder, if you want to drop me a note for a question, feel free to leave a comment on our YouTube channel. Feel free to send me a message on Twitter. I'm on Twitter under Chad M. Stryker, and I'm on Facebook as well as under the _ Buckeye Blitz podcast. So if you have a question and you'd like me to answer it, fire away. I'm happy to do so. So, first question, diving right into it, are we really in on Jaden Jackson, the defensive tackle from IMG Academy? He's a 247 composite 4-star. He's like on that 3-4-star fringe. I honestly can't get a read on this. I know there's a few future casts out there for him to Miami. I think he's a Miami lean, but everything, he's saying all the right things about how much he enjoyed his time at Ohio State. Boy, it's tough to get a read on this, and in today's world, that's unusual. It was kind of the same thing with the Justin Scott commitment. It was like, whoa, what, how, okay. I didn't know about that until 45 minutes or so before it happened. News started to leak out. So I will just say I like his tape. He moves really well laterally, especially for someone his size in comparison to other guys his size. Kind of a Tyleik Williams-ish athlete. I wouldn't say he's on that level, but he is very talented. So, the national folks really like him, rave about him. I do think he'll blow up this year, his senior year. Confidence meter on Ohio State to land him, 4 out of 10. I really don't know. I can't get a read on it. Whatever. We'll see. I do like him, though. I think he's a space eater, and I think he would help Ohio State a lot. So we'll leave it at that. The other item that I feel like I get asked 37 times a day or more is, are you sure we are in the thick of it for KJ Bolden? Yeah, I'm sure. I'm 100% sure that we are in the thick of it. I'm not going to say we lead. I'm not going to say we land him. But we are in the thick of it, and I believe he has genuine interest in Ohio State. He seems like a fairly genuine kid. I don't think he'd put stuff out there that wasn't, misleading. I think it's Ohio State and Georgia, and I know that Steve Wiltfong has put a crystal ball into Georgia, and a lot of times I take that as, kind of a pretty certain thing, but he also flipped his crystal ball 15 minutes before Marquise Lightfoot committed to Miami over Ohio State. So stuff can happen, things can happen. Ohio State's NIL is in a much better place. I keep repeating that. I also know it's incredibly hard to pull a player out of the state of Georgia with the role that Georgia's been on. So we'll see is what I'll say. I think they're in it. Confidence meter that we land him, 3 out of 10. I think it's going to be really hard to pull him. I know that we are really in the thick of it for a couple other guys, but that's going to be tough. I liked this question a lot, and I know that I've heard this recently on some other podcasts I like to listen to as well, but do you think JT Barrett returns to Ohio State as a coach in the next couple of years? Someone mentioned it on a podcast recently, ? Okay, so let me just say I like JT Barrett a lot as an individual. I've had an opportunity to talk to him twice. He's been through the thick of it here at Ohio State as a starting quarterback. He knows what it's like to get lambasted by our fan base, the media, all of the things that come with playing quarterback at the Ohio State University. So he's got that going for him, and he could help young quarterbacks here that either are or will go through it. So put that piece aside. He went through the good with the bad here. His driving under the influence incident, and then benched for Cardale in the start of the 2015 season. Been hurt, been maligned as a passer. I like him. I think he will be a good coach. He's in Detroit coaching now with the Lions, and I feel like he fits in extremely well with Dan Campbell. Could I see him returning under Ryan Day? Probably. I don't expect it to happen right now, but I do expect it to happen down the road. I think he comes back. I think he makes his return. I think he does a good job in Detroit. He comes back. And I don't want to put this out there because I never like to put bad juju in the air, but there will be a day when Corey Dennis, someone realizes how great of a coach he is, and unless he just decides that like he wants to stay at Ohio State because his family's here and so on and so forth and so on and so forth, um, he may move on, and you're going to need a quarterbacks coach. And I think I would rather see them move him up, you know, through the coach, you know, or Ohio State coaching ranks, than lose him. But things can happen. I don't want to put that bad juju in the air, but you know, and don't attack me for saying it. I'm just saying that like there is that possibility in the next 15 years that he moves on. So JT will be a phenomenal coach, no doubt about it. I like the way he thinks and processes things. If you listen to him talk, he's really cerebral. I think he would be a big help. So that's my 2 cents on that one. But like if I was going to end it in anything, I would love to see it. I'd love to have JT Barrett back at Ohio State coaching or as a grad assistant, something like that, along the lines of James Laurinaitis. We need as many players back in and around the program to keep that tradition alive as possible, in my opinion. So that's my 2 cents on that. This question kind of caught me off guard, and it was a DM in my Twitter, and I didn't really know how to respond to it. So why are you so ambivalent about beating Michigan and when it comes to the playoffs? And so I think that this was a reaction to my Twitter poll, basically saying, would you rather lose to Michigan if it meant winning a national championship, or beat Michigan and lose in the first round or in the championship game in the playoffs as it's currently structured? So 71% or 79%, I think, of my Twitter followers or participants, I guess, out of 1,400 and some odd votes said they would rather win the Natty and lose to Michigan. And I'm in that camp, you know, like, so I think that's where this question comes from, but I am anything other than ambivalent about beating Michigan. I grew up in the Cooper era. I started really following football at the very tail end of the Earl Bruce era. I absolutely despise Michigan. It wouldn't matter if they were still being coached by Brady Hoke or Rich Rod. Every year, I got a sick feeling in my stomach leading into that game, no matter what. It didn't matter that we had beat them 6 times in a row and we were going for 7. I still had a sick feeling in my gut every time I saw that game on the schedule, because of living through it in the 90s with John Cooper. I know what it was like, and it sucked. So I'm anything but ambivalent about it. Secondly, I won't even wear yellow and blue together because I think it looks too much like Michigan. I can't really even handle seeing them on the TV unless they're getting beat by Appalachian State, getting a punt blocked by Michigan State, or getting housed by TCU in the playoff. You know, and I would say that game wasn't even as close as it was at the end because TCU just outplayed them. You know, the final score would tell you something a little bit differently, but TCU played a heck of a football game. So my suggestion about this was that the playoff is not, you know, right now 4 teams, it's going to 12. It will be that next year. I think my mindset has switched from, in the past, Ohio State versus Michigan was the de facto Big Ten championship game, and most of us, don't tell the Big Ten West, already know that. There is nothing sweeter than beating Michigan at the end of the year, capping off an undefeated season, and in the last 20 years we have been spoiled beyond all recognition because we owned them until the 2021 snow debacle. I felt going into that game our team was a little bit too, I don't want to use the word cocky, but ahead of themselves. They were already talking about the playoffs. They were already thinking about the Big Ten championship game. They weren't even thinking about Michigan. That's how dominant Ohio State had been over Michigan during that stretch. They weren't even thinking about Michigan. They were just thinking about the Big Ten championship and the playoffs and beyond. And that's kind of the mentality that I'm taking now as the 12 team playoff comes into fruition. I want to beat Michigan. I want to beat them bad, and I mean really bad, like 62-39 bad. I have a Christmas ornament with 62-39 on it from the game that I hang up on my tree. And yeah, I like to look at it. I think I even have posted a picture of it on social media before. Here's the reality, though. After this year, OSU continues on its trend as long as they continue to win 11-plus games a year, even if they lose to that team up north the last week of November, and they are 11-1, and they'll be in the college football playoff, and they're built for the college football playoff. That's the difference between Ohio State and Michigan as it stands recently. Even though we lost the game, our talent puts us on par with other teams that are in the college football playoff. I'm not saying Michigan isn't talented. They're just built differently. They're built to beat Ohio State. They're built to win the Big Ten. And that's what we found out in the Tressel era, at the end of the Tressel era, running into the Urban Meyer era. The difference is speed and being able to compete in the playoffs. If you remember the LSU versus Ohio State national championship game and the Florida versus Ohio State national championship game in the mid-2000s, go back, you'll see what I mean. That said, I'd rather be 12-0 and sitting in a catbird seat and have a first-round bye and have home field advantage and a top 4 spot in the college football playoff rankings by beating Michigan. I do not want to lose to them. But if it happens and we end up with a national championship out of it, kind of lessens the sting is all I'm saying. I am not ambivalent about beating Michigan. I mentioned that kind of like what the Twitter poll told me was that everybody was, 80%, give or take, of the people were thinking I would trade a loss to Michigan if it meant a national championship for Ohio State. So that's where that was derived out of. I wasn't trying to say that I just would accept losses. It's not really where I was going with that. The last thing I think I'll touch on today was who is someone no one is talking about that you think could surprise everyone this year for Ohio State. So I don't know, what people are looking for in these kind of questions, but if you were asking me and just kind of curious about what I think, for a surprise player, I don't know that it's really a surprise if you follow the team closely, but I want to say Evan Pryor, because I think he's Curtis Samuel 2.0. But what I don't know is if he'll get enough touches to make that a reality, but that's where my gut is. He's the first guy that kind of came to mind when I read the question, like, who is somebody that kind of has just gotten lost in the wash, and, he's hurt last year, he's coming off a PCL injury, didn't get to see him in the spring game, wasn't full go in practice in the spring. If he gets enough touches, Evan Pryor. Defensively, and you may have heard me say this before, I have Cam Martinez or Mitchell Melton. I picked Cam Martinez because I think he has a real shot to be the starting nickel safety and make some plays. We'll see. He's a kind of an athletic freak. He played offense and defense in high school. He returned kicks. We'll see if he gets a chance in that role, see if, what it looks like. I hope that's the case, because I think he's a good young man. I'd like to see that happen. The other one is Mitch Melton. Now, I know some people have already been talking about him for the jack position, and there's a lot of hubbub about him and maybe C.J. Hicks. So that's a possibility too. We'll see how much they use the jack. They didn't use it as much as people would have thought last year. So that's what came to mind. I'm going to stop there for the day. I'm going to do a few more questions on Friday from the mailbag. I've got a lot, and I'm sorry if I didn't get to yours today.